welcome to Legally Speaking with me, Tarun Nangia. Today we're going to touch a very relevant and current topic. The topic is of emergency arbitration in India and also the kind of potential it has. Because normally we've been used to court procedures like interim relief, but of late we see the use of emergency arbitration in corporate world. And what is its uses and potential in this country is what we're going to explore today. I have a very interesting, eminent panel to discuss this. I have with me Senior Advocate Pinky Anand. Ma'am has served as the Additional Solicitor General of India. I have with me Senior Advocate Gaurav Banerjee, a well-known name in the field of arbitration. I have with me Faisal Sherwani. He is Partner, Dispute Resolution Practice with L&L Partners. I have with me Shashank Garg. Shashank Garg is a well-known arbitrator, also advocate at the Delhi High Court and the Supreme Court of India. And to lay the ground on this issue first, with regards to, say, emergency arbitration or interim relief, may I request Senior Advocate Gaurav Banerjee to say a few words.
This is a novel topic, at least for us in India. And I must say I've had a little bit of experience with it because I'm involved in this Amazon dispute. And it was a difficult task once we got an emergency arbitrator appointed and got an order in our favor as to how to implement it. And there were a lot of discussions and debates, and ultimately we decided on a particular route. And as you know, it ended up in the Supreme Court, and it ended well for us. But what I want to say about this is that this is another arrow in your arsenal. Rather than going to court, this is an option which is now available in India, seated in arbitrations in India. And I believe that this is a very positive step, and it will help promote our nation and our country and the seat as a more arbitration-friendly seat. And it's just another way of getting your relief, or at least having another forum. And I think it's a big step forward for us.
A big step forward for us is what Senior Advocate Gaurav Banerjee says. I go to Ma'am Pinky Anand. Your views on this topic.
I said these are very interesting issues. You know, at one point of time, if you talked about emergency awards, it was hitherto an unknown kind of subject within the Indian jurisprudence, if I might say so, in the Indian arbitration world. So ultimately, obviously, it was an issue of extreme importance because it emerged as a new sequence in the Arbitration Act. But while saying so, we have been having innovation in arbitration, and the entire object being to have an alternative method and an alternative mechanism. That's the first point. The second is the issue of enforcement. So I think that also is a very interesting discussion, for the reason that enforcement itself is something which has been based as a matter of some issue in India. You know, it's been said that awards cannot be enforced in India. So it heralds very well for the country to have an enforcement of an award, and that too an emergency award, which of course in the facts of the case seems to be justified, as you know, because what happens ultimately in such a case is you have participation of both parties. In the particular dispute of Amazon, you have the participation and the appointment of the arbitrator. You participate in the emergency award. It's really, as such, not something that you can walk out of. Once you have participated and acquiesced in the proceedings, it becomes part and parcel. And then, of course, Justice Nariman's exposition on why not, there's no interdict on emergency awards. You have the facility under the provisions of the Arbitration Act. So why not? It is an award which is under the Singapore Arbitration Forum, as SEAC, so to say. So then within which jurisdiction it is recognized. And we all know that we are competing with everybody in the world to become an arbitration-friendly destination. We've been struggling with it, and we indeed want to be somewhere where that presence is totally felt. So whenever you have such a situation, the factum of having such awards, which ultimately recognize not only the, so to say, main award, but to recognize the interim awards, the interim reliefs, the emergency awards, is a feature, I think, that positions India very well in the entire hierarchy of arbitration world.
Okay, point well taken. I go to Shashank Garg for his opening comment.
See, I think Mr. Banerjee was very modest when he says he has had little experience with emergency awards and emergency arbitration. I think Amazon itself, if I can say, is a master's course in emergency arbitration. But as I will join my co-panelists in saying and in agreeing with them fully that I think emergency arbitration is a concept which, of course, is novel to India. But given the landscape that we are in, and given the complexities and the timelines that we want to achieve in most commercial disputes, emergency arbitration can be a real good, quick answer. The question that arises is that how much are we using it? How prevalent it is in domestic arbitration circuit, and what are the changes that need to be brought in the Arbitration Conciliation Act, as well as the institutional mechanism that we have in India to foster emergency arbitration as a process itself.
Okay, point well taken. Faisal Sherwani from LNL Partners, SIAC was the first to introduce this concept in Asia of emergency arbitrations. They also framed the rules first. In India, how do you see this being operationalized more and more, or people gravitate towards the courts that good? But I think every JV contract these days has an arbitration clause. In light of that fact, where are we headed as far as this dispute resolution practice is concerned?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right, Tarun. SIAC was the first to introduce it, I think 10, 11 years odd back. And interestingly, they started the idea that was mooted behind the purpose of putting a provision for emergency arbitration was because they found that in many cases, courts were not particularly inclined to grant interim relief quickly in matters where there was an arbitration clause. On account of that hesitance, there was this need which was felt to make provision for this. Now, somewhere deep down inside, and we all have our flaws, and I'm sure we have ours too, but that way we have been fortunate in the Indian scenario where you have been able to approach the court for quick relief under Section 9. Even prior to Amazon and Future Retail, there are instances where the court, while recognizing that there is no provision for enforcement of a foreign emergency award, they did sort of go out of their way. There is a judgment of the Delhi High Court. There's one of the Bombay High Court, which is pre-Balco, where they said that you can come under Section 9 even if you've got an award in a foreign jurisdiction. Will probably lay the foundation and provide the same protection to you here. So that sentiment has been there throughout in the Indian scenario. And I think it's something that our courts have been conscious of, even though the Law Commission sort of, that recommendation was not, the 246 Law Commission report had recommended expressly making provision for emergency awards. That wasn't inserted, but I think the courts have always tried to make further the cause of party autonomy. That's something not only to be furthered but also to be celebrated at the end of the day.
Point well taken. I'll go to Senior Advocate Gaurav Banerjee at this point. Until about last month, I think SIAC has completed about 125, 127 emergency arbitrations till date. In India, the number is very less. India as a market has a great commercial potential. Disputes are a natural fallout. Do you think more and more, in a sense, litigants will exercise this option? Is the awareness not as much? People gravitate to the courts? If you could explain the whole scenario to us as far as India is concerned.
So let us be clear as to what the law is and what the Supreme Court has decided, and where there is a bright red line.
Yes.
If there is an arbitration seated in India, though this was a SIAC arbitration, Amazon was a SIAC arbitration, is a SIAC arbitration, the seat is Delhi. If it is seated in India, now the Supreme Court says that you can have an emergency arbitration. The catch there is that this is only possible if you have institutional arbitration. Majority of arbitrations in India are domestic, are ad hoc. Sorry, not domestic, are ad hoc. So the culture of going to an institution and having the arbitration in India has still not taken off for various reasons. So though this is SIAC, you have similar clauses in, for instance, the Delhi International Arbitration Center, which is attached to the Delhi High Court. The Madras High Court has one. Nani Palkiwala has one, MCIA has one. So if people want to go down this emergency arbitrator route in India, then they also have to sign into institutional arbitration. So that is one aspect that people should be clear about when they are advising or when they are drawing up these contracts. The benefit is, and we have a new section 9.3 which says that you really should go to the arbitrator even before going to the court. So the idea, the philosophy is, even for interim relief, you should go to an arbitrator, whether it is a one by consent or emergency. So far as SEAC is concerned and the numbers you are giving, this is slightly different. In foreign awards, I think Faisal touched on it, in foreign awards, this culture of emergency arbitration is much more. And a lot of emergency arbitration orders are passed. Now, there is still a gray area. There is a massive gray area. What happens if you have an EA order from, say, Singapore? Can you enforce it in India? Answer, yes and no. As always, there's a yes and no. We have found innovative ways of enforcing it. There's a recent judgment called Avitel, which we can discuss. What we have done is use section 9, which is now extended to part 2 of the Arbitration Act to enforce it. But I have always said this, and Pinky has been in government. I have been in government. I have been associated with the 246 Law Commission report as ASG and otherwise. We must quickly amend our laws. We have to keep pace with other countries and amend our laws. You say, why should you bother with arbitration? You should bother with important things like criminal law, etc. Why should Parliament bother? The moment you bring in these amendments, optically, there is a massive impact on ease of doing business. So you must keep these two separate. Domestic, promote institutional arbitration. Foreign, amend your laws.
I'll go to Shashank. Shashank, is there a different skill set required when you choose an emergency arbitrator, or is it all the same for regular arbitrations or emergency arbitrator?
So to begin with, emergency arbitrator, as Mr. Banerjee put out, is only a feature that comes out in institutional arbitrations. And the institution rules provide for the appointment of an emergency arbitrator. It is usually not that the parties will have any say in choosing the emergency arbitrator. In fact, SEAC, since we are discussing, has a separate panel of arbitrators who have chosen and who have volunteered to be appointed as emergency arbitrators, because these appointments are to be done in 48 hours. And the awards and the orders of emergency arbitrators have to be expedited. So you need an arbitrator, one who's willing to be called upon at a short notice, who's able to deliver, again, in a very, very stringent timeline. So, of course, the skill set remains the same. The only feature that will distinguish an emergency arbitrator from a regular arbitrator is the willingness to abide by very strict timelines and to be able to provide himself and make himself available at a very short notice. If you can't do that, then the entire process of emergency arbitrator and the appointment, especially in the domestic scenario, will be as bad as it gets.
Point well taken, ma'am. Pinky Anand, is this possible to execute in India? Having a panel of people who are up for emergency arbitration, we need eminent people who are ready and willing to do that. Anyways, I mean, it requires commitment, because at short notice, I think not many people are available so easily in this country.
Tarun, I don't know whether that's a complete yes or a complete no. I mean, people are available and people are qualified and definitely have all the credentials to be able to engage in this. The question of time frame, however, yes, you're right. I mean, by and large, in arbitrations where they are being held, you do find that arbitrators seem to have a number of commitments, so they can't engage themselves. So having a separate panel, as Shashank was talking about in Singapore, is something which is extremely desirable, because you want people who are able to commit themselves to timeline. Emergency means time frame, ultimately. That's a real difference between emergency and a regular arbitration award. And the fact that we need to bring it within the system is something which is imperative. To have a judicial pronouncement is one part, but to have it as part of legislation, both in the foreign jurisdiction as far as foreign arbitration award is concerned, or a domestic award is concerned, I think the legislation also needs to incorporate each and every part of it to remove any ambiguity. Not that judicial precedent is not good enough for various reasons. We've been able to manage with having judicial precedent to say that something is acceptable. And in fact, I've noticed this with the Indian Supreme Court, by and large, that wherever a final relief is available, the interim reliefs would be available. And this has been read as inherently available from the main proceeding. So that runs across various laws. And it's a happy occasion that we've been able to take that from Section 9, which is interim relief, and to hold that Section 17 and Section 9 put together. There's no interdict, and therefore it is something which is available, including all the relevant subclauses of 9, which have been brought in subsequently, also 9.3. So I think it's a welcome provision, and we can and definitely have a separate panel because of time frame issues, which indeed is an urgency which needs to be put into the entire system for an emergency award.
Point well taken. Faisal Sherwani, you are part of the DSP practice at Luthra and Luthra. Now, you deal with many such matters. Interim relief versus emergency arbitration. In India, of course, people go get top counsel. If you get a good enough counsel, then interim relief, there is a chance you may get. Given that kind of a setup that we operate in this country, do you think that it is time before this practice picks up, because there are no dedicated people for this also? Could you explain this to us? How does this work from the law firm standpoint?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Tarun. And I think Mr. Banerjee really hit the nail on its head when he said that, it's not a matter of choice. At the end of the day, even today, if you look at all of the big ticket arbitrations, the high value arbitrations, the construction disputes, they are really in the nature of ad hoc arbitrations, where typically one party will appoint one arbitrator, the other party will appoint another one, and then there'll be a presiding arbitrator. Now, in that sort of a scenario, unless you have, and I don't know of any particular case, so to speak, there is no provision for an emergency arbitration. And therefore, you will find parties rushing to court under Section 9 to protect, encashment of bank guarantees. And that's how that practice started here. And therefore, there has to be, a shift towards institutional arbitration in the Indian scenario. And there has to be a mindset change, I think. And I think we might be a few years away from achieving that. Because even today, I think approaching the court is what comes first to mind. And that is how we are wired.
Approaching the court is what comes to mind. I take this to Shashank from here. Shashank, you happen to be on the DIAC Management Committee and the NPAC Advisory Committee. So from that point of view, do you think we are amenable to change as far as the points raised by Senior Advocate Banerjee are concerned?
See, let's take the example of DIAC, the Delhi High Court Arbitration Center. The rules provide for emergency arbitration, as discussed by Mr. Banerjee. But we were looking at the stats. Even when the Amazon hearing was going on, one of the counsels had reached out to me to get the stats from DIAC. And we realized that the emergency arbitration rules have not been used even once. The institute has been there for now over close to, 12 years. But nobody has ever used the emergency arbitration rules. And the second question that stems out of this is that if at all somebody has adopted DIAC rules in their arbitration clause, will they have the option of going in a Section 9 at the pre-arbitration stage? Or the Section 9 court will rather relegate them back to DIAC to say, you have opted for DIAC, it provides for emergency arbitration, you have no say here, please go as per the rules of DIAC and get an emergency arbitrator appointed. And what will happen? How would we recognize that emergency award? That's the third question. But that, I think we have covered the ground. The judiciary has been very prompt. In fact, one of the recent judgments of Delhi High Court in Ashwini Minda, the Japan commercial arbitration emergency rules were adopted. Emergency award, the unsuccessful party came to Delhi High Court under Section 9, and the court said, sorry, you can't have two rounds of the same relief. We are not sitting here in appeal and discussing an emergency award that has been passed against you. So I think the recognition by the judiciary is there. The legislature, of course, failed to adopt the 246 Law Commission report and Justice Sai Krishna's report and recommendations. But in practice, we are seeing increasingly emergency arbitration is getting that sort of attention, that sort of focus. And with parties getting aware of the emergency arbitration provisions in the Indian institutions and using them is the only stage that is left. And then we will know what are the consequences, whether the good consequences of it or whether there is still to be done. There's still more to be done in that regard.
Okay, I'll go to Senior Advocate Gaurav Banerjee here. If we are to move forward for India being an arbitration-friendly destination, do you think this issue of emergency arbitrations remains a hiccup as far as having arbitrations locally in this country are concerned?
I think post-Amazon, people will have more appetite to go to DIAC or NPAC or MCIA. I also inquired from MCIA. They also had very few cases of emergency arbitrator. But there is a legal issue here. In view of 9(3), it could be argued that you have to go to emergency arbitration, and your Section 9 petition may be dismissed on the ground of alternative remedy. So that's a question yet to be explored. And there's nothing wrong. You go to your emergency arbitrator. If the emergency arbitrator under Section 17 does something horribly wrong, there is an appeal to the High Court under 37. So there's no problem. I think it has to be sold to parties that this is a faster remedy. Because naturally, we are senior counsel, we love to go to court. But this should be an easier way of, now with the judgment of Supreme Court, it may be an easier way of selling it to parties that here, look, you will get quick relief here in 2, 3 or 5 days. And I don't think we have people, good arbitrators who can handle it also.
Point well taken. Ma'am, Pinky Anand, we see that a court system is clogged many times. Dates are not available so easily. Can that be, and I mean, if I may say so, a lot of retired judges are doing excellent work at arbitrators now in this country. Do you think there will be greater acceptability for that kind of platform as in a go-to thing for parties in dispute?
It has become, Tarun. I mean, ultimately you find that as far as courts are concerned, even when matters go to court which have arbitration clauses and are referable to arbitration, very often the courts will delegate the parties to arbitration and for any relief. So if you go for a relief under Section 9 and the matter has been or is proposed to be literally referred to arbitration, courts are increasingly referring the matter and saying, why don't you go before the arbitrator and get whatever relief there? Ultimately, what needs to be done for purposes of making arbitration more and more friendly as far as people are concerned and to end the dispute, which is ultimately our goal, is to actually have one forum. So the idea being you go to arbitration for all reliefs. That is why these forums, Section 9, before the arbitrator, emergency awards, the final award, enforceability of the award, all become a critical issues. So I think courts are cognizant of the fact, they are referring it. Of course, matters come to courts and they have to at times when the disputes haven't arisen, claims haven't been filed, Section 9 is yet available only before the courts and not before the arbitrator. But I do find an increasing tendency of all people in the commercial world to go to arbitration. And, more than only arbitration alone, you have arbitration. You ultimately have these provisions whereby you can enter into these settlements, and now various combinations and hybrids of those, particularly I think COVID times, of course, have taught us a lot. So all said and done, I think it is a world which needs to adopt all these modalities, because sitting across a table is not only the arbitration, it is also the additional facility of MEDABs and other equivalent kind of programs that serve to take the commercial world much forward, because in the commercial world, you don't want to prolong the agony. You don't want to be litigating anywhere, whether arbitration or courts. You want to end the disputes in the best way possible so that both parties ultimately benefit. So we hope that everybody's adoption of this method and increasing adoption of this method is something which takes the country forward.
Point well taken. We are out of time, but we would like to do a part 2 on this issue where we can pick maybe certain commercial cases where this concept has delivered. I think to drive home the point to promoters that adopting this mechanism is indeed the best way forward. And of course, unless we cite and discuss cases, that will be a time that, points will come up where even promoters realize, but this is an option to go for. And this is something that the whole ecosystem should promote. I would like to thank Senior Advocate Gaurav Banerjee, Senior Advocate Pinky Anand, Shashank Garg, Advocate, and also Faisal Sherwani, partner from LLN Partners, for joining me on this show. It was indeed a very interesting discussion. I hope the viewers enjoy it, and there's more to come on this topic in future. Thank you so much, viewers.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.